costuma fazer vídeos sobre isso. Pá, e basicamente ele pá, estava a ver como é que o gajo metia.
So don't shoot the messenger.
Como é que ele dava rate, até o método está aqui. Portanto, eu sinto que isto vai ser um bom vídeo para se ver. Tipo, de certeza que há malta neste chat que curte um MMO qualquer. Eu sei, eu já vi isso, eu já sei onde é que ele vai pôr o canal, eu já vi só essa parte. Isto foi tipo a comunidade, ou seja, ele fez a comunidade dele votar, e isto, lembrem-se que são malta que só vêem MMOs, ok? Tipo, eles só curtem MMOs, consomem o conteúdo do Lazy Pion, no Lazy Pion só fala de MMOs, ok? E então, tipo, a comunidade do gajo deu rate aos MMOs. Meteram um Ion em F.
So, rest in peace, Aeon. Neverwinter, an MMO that still gets played to this day, and the overwhelming amount of people voted it to be C tier, which I would agree with. The Secret World, an MMO that I haven't played for a long time or heard anything about. I'm not even sure if it's still going, but people voted this as F tier. Okay. Guild Wars 1, this is interesting because 22% of people voted it to be B tier, but 22.6% of people voted it to be C tier, so that's where it's going to end.
Eu punho o Guild Wars 1 em B tier. Porque o Guild Wars 1 era um grande jogaço. Mas percebo que com o passar dos anos tipo, já não seja aquilo que... Hoje em dia, pós ratings de hoje em dia, o Guild Wars, eu percebo que o ponham em si.
But people really loved Guild Wars 1. New MMO from 2022, Embers Adrift, very niche MMO, and 39% of people voted this to be F tier. EVE Online, another extremely niche MMO, and an MMO that I've never actually covered on this channel. Interestingly enough, despite it being super niche, 25.5% of people voted EVE Online to be in the B tier. I really need to give EVE Online a chance. I always forget that this game exists, but it's been around since 2003, so it must be good if it's still going. Vindictus, the MMORPG that revolutionized action combat around the 2010 era, and you guys have just put it in the F tier, so it is what it is. I don't agree with that, but this is the tier list we're making. Lord of the Rings Online, another old MMO that's still quite popular to this day. This game almost made the B tier, with 27.2% people voting it for B tier, but 27.4% edged out and put it in the C tier,
Lord of the
which
Rings
I would
Online
probably agree with. It is quite old now. Lineage 2. This is an MMO that I wish I had the chance to play whilst it was relevant. Had epic, large-scale castle sieges and was quite ahead of its time. People voted this to be in the C tier. Next up is Rift, another MMO that people deemed to be middle of the pack and C tier. I'm not too sure if this game still has a healthy population. Probably need to check in on it again sometime soon. Arcade, an MMO that people either loved or absolutely hated, but one thing that was undeniable is that Arcade brought a lot of
innovation
to the MMO genre.
Lineage 2 é grande jogaço, puto. É muito bom.
Which is why I'm surprised to see that it overwhelmingly got voted to be a C.
Mano, porque o Arcade falhou em bué de aspectos. O Arcade era um jogo bué da promissor. Tinha bué de merdas, tipo, espetaculares. Mas falhou em bué outras merdas. O Arcades, tipo, foi um jogo que deu um flop gigantesco. Para além do modelo de jogo, tipo, que a maior parte da malta não gostou. Pá, eu não sei, mano. Arcades foi um jogo que falhou, só. Falhou. Tanto que desapareceu. Já ninguém joga essa merda. Pronto, então, Fishing, então não era um bom jogo, bro. Se a empresa era uma merda e a política deles não foi boa, claro que o jogo não era bom, bro. Eu percebo o que estás a dizer. A ideia do jogo era bacana, estás a ver? Era sim, senhor. Agora, pá, falhou.
MMO. But a lot of people also voted it to be F tier and D tier. It was nowhere near reaching B or A tier. I'll do my own tier list at the end of this video, but I'd probably put it in B tier myself. Blade and Soul, another MMO that was ahead of its time in regards to its combat system. Really fun, balanced, equalized 1v1, 3v3 arena PvP. People voted this one in the C tier. Albion Online, this MMO is a bit of a success story, one of the most successful crowd-funded MMOs, and it's just gone from strength to strength over the years. Lots of positive updates, and the game's got quite a big player base. People voted this to be a B tier MMO quite overwhelmingly. RuneScape 3, the least popular of the two different versions of RuneScape. This game's completely different to old school RuneScape, is more heavily monetized, but also has a lot of different features and different gameplay. People voted this to be a B tier MMO. B tier for RuneScape 3, I think I'd agree with that. Swords of Legends Online, Chinese MMO that people seemed to enjoy for about 2 months once it released, and then I heard absolutely nothing about it since. People voted this to be F tier. Warhammer Online Return of Reckoning private server. The official servers of Warhammer Online got shut down years ago, but the game's existed on a private server for many years since. And I've covered it recently, and people have voted it into the C tier. Quite a popular game. Okay. Every time I mention it, people talk very positively about it. We still haven't got anything for the D, A, or S tier yet. Okay. Adventure Quest 3D. Yeah, this one's overwhelmingly F tier, quite basic combat, it's mobile, PC, cross-platform, no surprise to me there. How about Skyforge? I absolutely hated this game when it first released. Solid F tier. Riders of Icarus, tab target MMO where you basically go around collecting lots of different mounts. Whilst it's not as bad as Skyforge, people have still voted it for the F tier.
Eu não joguei o endgame do Riders of Icarus, mas por acaso o leveling e não sei que a experiência não era assim tão má.
World of Warcraft Dragonflight, finally something for the A tier. This was overwhelmingly A tier at 32 point.
Não consigo perceber. Tipo, eu não sei, a malta que joga WoW está tão cheatada com a Dragonflight, eu achei tão chato. Tipo, eu joguei a Dragonflight, pelo menos o início, o leveling e o caralho, estava bem chato, mano. Tipo, eu não sei se é por eu já estar habituado a usar mounts naquele nível. Pá, é tão chato, meu. Curti tão mais da Shadowlands, acho que a história estava mais bacana.
8%, but 24.4% also voted it to be S tier. Claro. So an expansion that people seem to be reviewing very positive early on. World of Warcraft Wrath of the Lich King Classic. This is an interesting one because Wrath of the Lich King was the peak of WoW in terms of subscription numbers. So I expected this to have more positive votes.
Isso para mim era S. O Wrath of the Lich King, o clássico era S.
Than Dragonflight, but this wasn't the case. Wrath of the Lich King Classic was 30.7% voted for the A tier, and only 13.3% voted as S tier. It also had 28.9% people voting it for the B tier, so the community seems to prefer Dragonflight over Wrath Classic. Allods Online, I revisited this MMO last year and it still has a player base, but pretty much everyone that plays it is Eastern European. People voted this for the F tier. Tower of Fantasy, not really an MMORPG, but I wanted to include it into this video anyway, as it is a shared world anime gacha MMO. People voted this for the F tier. Diablo Immortal, the most overwhelming F tier game on this list. 65.9% people voted this for the F tier, which doesn't surprise me at all. League of Angels 4, for me this is the worst MMO I've ever played and covered on this channel. This is the most F tier game you can possibly get. It should probably even have its own tier, League of Angels tier, it's that bad. 48.4% of people voted Metin 2 for the F tier.
Vocês vão se passar com esta, que o Metin foi parar a F. Mas é justo, malta, o Metin é um lixo. Eu sei que vocês detestam esta ideia, mas o Metin é um lixo de jogo. É mesmo. Tipo, é um F game. Pá, é. Eu sei... Vocês ficam tilted porque fez parte da vossa infância e o caralho. Pá, mas é um F tier. O jogo é muito mau, malta. Eu joguei Metin durante muitos anos, como vocês sabem. Pá, e até eu sei dizer que este jogo era horrível. E eu não percebo muito bem porque é que gastei horas nesta merda, em vez de jogar jogos em condições. Mas olha, here we are. Tinha só a ver. Aliás, parte daquilo que fazia o Metin de ser um bom jogo era gozar com tugas. Vamos ser sinceros. Essa era a melhor parte da experiência do Metin. A parte fixe do Metin era escavacar tugas e gozar com eles. Era a melhor parte.
48.4% of people voted Metin 2 for the F tier. Final Fantasy XI Online. This MMO released all the way back in 2002 and I've never had the chance to play it, but I've heard a lot of cool stories about the game. Surprisingly, people voted this to be an F tier game, even though it's still played to this day. Maple Story, a nostalgic MMO for many people. This was almost voted into the B tier, but ultimately ended up in C tier by 0.2%. Project Gorgon, a super old school MMO that, if I remember correctly, was made by a team of a husband and a wife.
Wow.
Which is why I'm surprised that so many people have voted this in the C tier. Quite a niche MMO, maybe I should revisit it this year. Black Desert Online, quite a controversial MMO that evokes a lot of emotions from people, but without a doubt this game has the best action combat in the MMORPG genre, and it's not really close. In terms of popularity, BDO's like the 4th most popular MMO in the world, which is why I'm surprised that so many people have voted it to be B tier.
Mano, foda-se, Black Desert para mim é dos poucos que merece B tier. Porque, man, tem um combate excelente, é um facto, é inegável, mas é tão rentabilizado de forma ridícula que merece mesmo B-tier.
Guild Wars 2, an MMO that many people absolutely love.
S.
Super easy game to recommend.
Mais.
You can jump in and jump out of Guild Wars 2 anytime you want, and you never feel like you're behind because the game focuses so heavily on horizontal progression. People overwhelmingly voted this to be an A-tier MMO.
Eu punho o GW2 em S com o Wrath of the Lich Classic, com o Final Fantasy XIV e com o Elder Scrolls Online. E esta era a minha S-tier. O resto era tudo A's e B's e C's e D's e F's.
With a lot of votes also for the S tier.
Claro.
PSO2 New Genesis. This is basically an updated version of Phantasy Star Online 2, modern graphics, better combat, and a bit of a redesign of the game. Don't really hear too many people talk about this MMO, so I was surprised to see it was voted as C tier.
Star Wars era
Mortal
A para
Online
mim,
2, a hardcore full loot open world PvP sandbox MMO. Quite a niche MMO, not a lot of people seem to like these kind of games, and it was overwhelmingly voted as F tier. Undecember, a multiplayer ARPG cross-platform on PC and mobile that I covered recently. Not really an MMORPG, but I wanted to include it anyway. People voted this for the F tier. Game's kind of similar to Diablo Immortal, but I'd say it's a little bit better. One of my favourite games of 2022. Super unique multiplayer top-down vampire survival game with bosses, and it's just come out with a massive new update. Despite not being an MMORPG, 25.7% of people voted V-Rising in the B tier, with the 24.3% of people voting it in the A tier. Conqueror's Blade, another one for the F tier. Bless Unleashed, overwhelmingly F tier.
Yeah.
DC Universe Online, people still play this game, and I thought it was going to get voted in the C or D tier, but people voted it in the F tier. No love for superhero MMOs anymore. Dungeons and Dragons Online, another beloved old school MMORPG. No surprise to see this one also get voted to the C tier. 6 MMOs to go, this is where it gets interesting. Star Wars The Old Republic. We don't have a lot of sci-fi MMOs on this list, but Star Wars The Old Republic is one of the most popular, with 33.6% of people voting it in the B tier. This is an interesting one, as the game saw a lot of improvements in 2022. Following the Brimstone Sands expansion, the player base finally started to grow. I rated New World as a B tier MMO at the end of 2021, and I said I expected it to become an A tier MMO at the end of 2022. But based on community votes, 33.2% of people still vote New World as a B tier MMO. Old School RuneScape, the most popular of the two RuneScape versions. As RuneScape 3 got voted into the B tier, it's no surprise that Old School RuneScape was overwhelmingly voted as an A tier MMO. Next up, Lost Ark. This one surprised me a lot. I was certain that people would vote this as an A tier.
Eu punha, por exemplo, Lost Ark para mim é A, RuneScape Old School também. New World punha no B na mesma, mas o Star Wars The Old Republic punha no A. Esses eram irmãos, eu punha-os todos no A. Agora, pá, achei que o WoW, o GW e o Elder Scrolls e o Final Fantasy nunca na vida podem estar ali, meu. No meio destes.
This game popped off at release and it has the best action combat of any isometric MMO out there. Yet 30.2% of people voted it as a B tier MMO. I guess that has to do with the monetization and the botting issue that the game currently faces. Elder Scrolls Online, solid MMORPG, beloved IP. Personally, I'm not a big fan of the combat, but many people still play this game across multiple platforms. I'm surprised to say that this game's been voted as a B tier MMO overwhelmingly, with 37.5% of people voting it. One MMO remaining, Final Fantasy 14.
Final Fantasy 14, nem sei como é que não foi parar a S.
It's going to be an MMO to reach S tier. You would think it would be this one, as people who play this game are extremely passionate about it, and you can certainly see that in the community votes. 33% of people voted Final Fantasy 14 to be an S tier MMO, which is the highest amount of S tier votes that any game on this list got. 35.2% of people, however, voted it to be an A tier MMO, which means that once again in 2023, no S tier MMORPG exists.
Pronto, opá, é assim. Olhando para esta merda, não acho injusto. Só o Elder Scrolls é que o puxava para cima. De resto.
Interestingly, no D tier MMO exists.
Qual é que é a lista do Lazy?
Let me know in the comments. So if you...
Ok, o Lazy Pian pôs o Guild Wars em A, o Dragonflight em A, Final Fantasy XIV em A, o Wrath of the Lich King em A, Black Desert Online em A, puto, nunca. RuneScape Old School ok, New World punhou em B, mas está bem, percebo. Lost Ark, ok. Elder Scrolls, ok. Albion e V-Rising, ok. Arcades, Star Wars Online, Guild Wars em si. Ok, tá bem, pronto. Ok. I guess. Pronto, eu curtia que este gajo disponibilizasse a lista para nós podermos fazer a lista. Porque eu curtia de fazer esta lista. My personal tier list. Eu curtia bem de fazer esta merda desta tier list. Mas pronto. Por acaso, no fundo já disse qual era. Mas eu punha merdas em esse. É fixe.